The resilience myth: why working twice as hard isn't enough for Black women in business. Thank you all for being here today. I'm truly honored to stand before you to share insights that have fundamentally shifted my understanding of success, resilience, and empowerment. Recently, I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Rita Smith, a visionary whose groundbreaking research has illuminated the complex realities facing Black women in entrepreneurship and professional spaces. Rita isn't just a researcher or advocate, she's a revolutionary force dismantling outdated narratives about success. Her unflinching commitment to truth telling has created pathways for thousands of women to reclaim their power, not just individually, but collectively. Through her work, Rita has transformed boardrooms, policy discussions, and kitchen tables alike, always insisting that we look beyond inspirational quotes to the systems that shape our lived experiences. What struck me most about my conversation with Rita was her ability to cut through comfortable platitudes and speak unvarnished truth. Not the sanitized version we often hear in professional development seminars, but the raw, honest reality that many experience yet rarely see acknowledged in professional settings. We've all heard the narrative: work twice as hard, be twice as good, push through, persevere. The story of individual resilience is powerful, inspiring, and woefully incomplete. Here's the truth Rita shared that fundamentally challenges how we typically frame these conversations. Black women's experiences in entrepreneurship in the workplace aren't just about individual resilience or personal drive. They're a reflection of broader systemic inequities that persist regardless of qualifications, education, or effort. This isn't abstract theory, it's evident in hard data. Even as overall unemployment rates remain stable, Black women's unemployment has risen sharply, almost twice as high as white women's. This isn't coincidence or bad luck. It's a pattern revealing how economic vulnerabilities affect some communities first and most severely. As Rita powerfully stated, this isn't just about working harder or pushing through. It's about recognizing and addressing the structures that make certain journeys uniquely challenging. Let me be clear: this talk isn't about diminishing the importance of personal agency or resilience. Those qualities matter deeply. But when we focus exclusively on individual effort, we miss the bigger picture. We inadvertently place the burden of systemic problems on individual shoulders. Consider what the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies has documented. Black women often serve as canaries in the coal mine for larger economic problems. When recessions loom, Black women typically experience job losses first. Even those with advanced degrees and impressive credentials. Jasmine, a marketing executive with an MBA from a prestigious university, shared her story with Rita. Despite 15 years of progressive experience and consistently stellar performance reviews, she was among the first let go during her company's restructuring. Meanwhile, several less experienced colleagues remained. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was her third experience being first on the chopping block during economic downturns. This pattern isn't random, it reflects historical marginalization in hiring practices that continues today in more subtle but equally damaging forms. The data shows that Black women are often the first to feel economic contractions and the last to benefit from expansions. What's remarkable is how communities have responded. In the absence of adequate formal support systems, Black women have created their own networks of resources, information sharing, and mutual aid. These networks don't just offer practical support, they provide spaces where experiences are validated rather than dismissed or minimized. When Jasmine lost her job, she found herself welcomed into a circle of professional Black women who offer not just job leads, but something equally valuable: confirmation that her experience reflected systemic issues, not personal failings. This understanding was profoundly liberating. It allowed her to approach her job search with clarity rather than self doubt. This brings me to the first key insight from my conversation with Rita. Systemic barriers continue to shape professional and entrepreneurial paths for, for Black women, regardless of qualifications or effort. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds discouraging. Where's the hope? The hope lies in recognizing that if these challenges are systemic rather than individual, the solutions must be collective rather than solely personal. This leads to the second key insight: empowerment is collective, not just individual. Between 2019 and 2023, the growth rate among women owned businesses nearly doubled compared to men owned businesses. Female owned startups, including many led by Black women, now outperform male led ones on ROI metrics, according to Fundera by NerdWallet. What's driving this success? Not just individual brilliance, though there's plenty of that, but strategic approaches to navigating systemic challenges. Take Amara, who launched her tech startup after facing repeated barriers in traditional corporate settings. Rather than continuing to fight for recognition in spaces that consistently undervalued her, she created her own. But she didn't do it alone. Amara leveraged digital platforms that allowed her to bypass traditional gatekeepers. She formed diverse teams that fostered innovation. She connected with other women entrepreneurs who shared resources, strategies, and emotional support. Most importantly, she created a business model that intentionally addressed the barriers she had faced. Her company now prioritizes hiring women of color in tech and has created mentorship programs specifically designed to support their advancement. This shift represents something profound. It's not just about individual women succeeding against the odds, it's about changing the odds themselves. The startup activity rates for women have increased from 6% before 2005 to over 10% after 2020. This isn't just progress, it's transformation. And it's happening because women are working together to create new pathways where traditional ones have failed them. But let's be honest, these collective approaches to empowerment don't erase the very real challenges that persist. Consider Miriam's story, which Rita shared during our interview. Miriam, a young mother from Cote d'Ivoire who resettled abroad, faced significant barriers entering the workforce despite her skills and motivation. Employers consistently overlooked her because they prioritized local experience over actual competence. Miriam did everything right according to conventional wisdom. She attended workshops, sought networking events, and highlighted her transferable skills. Yet she continued to face obstacles related more to perception than ability. After months of rejection, Miriam nearly gave up. The constant dismissal of her capabilities had taken a profound emotional toll. But instead of internalizing these rejections, she began questioning the systems that produced them. Miriam started speaking up at job fairs about the barriers facing immigrant professionals. She connected with others facing similar challenges, and they began advocating together. She helped employers recognize how their hiring practices excluded valuable talent. She pushed boundaries around what qualified means. Her individual journey became part of a collective movement for change. This brings me to the third key insight. Visibility inspires action. When we share real stories, not sugar coated versions, we create space for healing and connection. We motivate others to pursue their own paths authentically. Miriam's willingness to share her struggles didn't just help her, it created ripples that benefited others facing similar challenges. It helped employers recognize their own biases. It inspired community organizations to develop more effective support programs. This is the power of visibility, not visibility for its own sake, but visibility that leads to concrete action and change. Now, I want to be clear about something. Recognizing systemic barriers doesn't mean accepting them as immutable. It means understanding their nature so we can dismantle them more effectively. It means acknowledging that while individual resilience matters, it shouldn't be necessary just to achieve basic equity. It means recognizing that the twice as good narrative, while born of necessity and wisdom, also reflects a fundamentally unfair standard. It means understanding that when we frame success exclusively in terms of individual effort, we inadvertently reinforce the very systems that create unequal burdens in the first place. So, what does this mean for how we approach empowerment? First, it means balancing individual and collective approaches. Personal development matters, building skills matters, cultivating resilience matters. But these individual efforts must be complemented by collective action that addresses root causes rather than just symptoms. Second, it means creating spaces where authentic stories can be shared without judgment. Not just success stories, but stories of struggle, setback, and the messy, nonlinear paths that real change often follows. Third, it means recognizing that empowerment isn't just about helping individuals navigate broken systems. It's about transforming those systems themselves. This is where Rita's work becomes so crucial. By highlighting these realities with data, stories, and clear analysis, she helps us see beyond individual narratives to the broader patterns that shape our collective experience. So I leave you with this challenge. What would it look like if we stopped asking ourselves how we can fit into broken systems and instead asked what we need those systems to become so all our brilliance has room not just to survive, but truly thrive? This isn't just a philosophical question, it's an urgent call to action. For those with power and privilege in current systems, how will you use your position to create more equitable structures? Will you examine hiring practices, promotion criteria, and funding decisions for hidden biases? Will you amplify voices that have been systematically silenced? For those navigating these systems, and how might you balance individual resilience with collective action? Can you find ways to support others even as you pursue your own path? Can you share your authentic story in ways that create space for others? For all of us, can we commit to seeing success not just as individual achievement, but as collective liberation? Can we imagine and then create systems where brilliance doesn't have to overcome barriers to be recognized, where resilience is celebrated but not required just to achieve basic equity? The world doesn't just need your individual success. It needs your voice, your vision, and your courage to challenge the systems that determine who succeeds and who struggles. Your journey matters. But even more importantly, the paths you create for others matter. Let's build those paths together. Thank you.